So, Diesel, I want to show you a video. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is Detective Matt Thornton. He's really prominent on YouTube. I think he's got over 100,000 followers. He might have 300,000. And he seems like a good dude. The first video that I saw of him, he came off kind of officer friendly. Do you know who Officer Friendly is down in Arkansas?
No.
So I'm from Arkansas, and we had a guy, I can't remember for the life of me what his real name is, but he goes by Officer Friendly. And there was a lot of controversy about him when I was younger because, back in the 90s, it was like you didn't know where he was coming from. He's a white guy. He works in a predominantly black neighborhood, and he was always taking pictures of like him playing basketball. Now, this is before social media. So like it'd be him playing basketball, or he would be sitting and have the kids like, all around him. He's eating chips.
Like
and
Tommy. What's his Tommy?
That's him, Officer Friendly. That's the dude from Arkansas.
Oh, yeah. I know who he is. Yeah.
What's his name?
I can't remember his last name. I think it's Tommy something.
With the bald dude, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Got a black wife. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So there was and you probably know this then, like there was a lot of people in the black community, quote unquote, that were like, what's his motivation behind this? Like, is he doing it just for clout? But, it's been it's been close to 30 years. Like, and like you say, he's got a black wife, like dude's legit, right?
Right.
So this Detective Matt Thornton, he's got the same kind of vibe. Okay. So I'm going to play two of his videos. They're shorts. So I'm going to play two of his shorts so you can kind of see where he's coming from. And then I want to ask you a question. So stand by. Let me pull his first video up. All right, here we go.
6 cops have been killed this week and this month.
Okay.
And some guy walking around the parking lot recording vehicles is not normal.
Okay. Well, it's not normal, but is it legal?
So
illegal?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a police report and figure out who you are.
Okay, is it illegal?
This right here is a no-no. You cannot hide behind this officers get killed all the time line in order to undercut the Constitution. Don't get me wrong, prayers and thoughts go out to anyone who lost their life. But you absolutely can't stand behind that to try to win and go around rules. And for the record, there's a lot more dangerous jobs than being a police officer. I actually worked in a chemical plant before I became an officer, and there was all kinds of things that could kill you in that place. I signed up for this knowing I might be put in some dangerous predicaments. I don't need to bring that up to anybody. I was just talking to my cousin about this last week. He was in Afghanistan for a year. He's a war veteran. And he told me it just gets under his skin when officers act like they're in a war zone.
I know exactly who that is. Yep.
What are your thoughts on him?
I think he brings a lot of light to the actual level of where officers need to be. I mean, he says a lot of things. Now, I don't follow him. I've just seen a few of his videos, and what I've seen, he's spoken the truth about. I think a lot of the things that he says are a little overboard sometimes. I don't know if he's still an officer. Sometimes he talks like he's not an officer anymore.
I think he's working, and if Matt, if you're watching this, I don't mean to speak out of turn. I think that he's working as a school resource officer at the moment.
Okay.
He has expressed that there's been a lot of backlash with the way that he carries himself and the things that he says. So, I have.
From who, though? From law enforcement or from the community? From
law enforcement, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, there is no. Listen, I got backlash for some of the things that I said, right? There is no doubt in my mind that he's going to get backlash from people in law enforcement because he's airing out our dirty laundry.
Why is that? Because this has been, that you and I had we had a brief exchange about something last week, I guess.
Right.
And, there's another social media creator that I really do like. And I think that, the unfortunate thing about social media is that it's hard, things get taken out of context, number one. And then number two, especially if you're looking at a short, a 30-second short, you can't convey a much larger message. So a lot of times, the more that I have been vocally critical of law enforcement and some of the actions that law enforcement takes, people have taken that kind of the wrong way, in my opinion. I don't feel like I'm out of line. And I wanted to ask you if you felt like I was out of line, because I think a lot of times the things that I say, people, they take it in this real negative tone, and that's not the way
okay, so let me start this by saying the reason why is just like any family that doesn't want their bad apples out there, right? So a lot of people are like, why are you putting this out there when all officers are not like that, right? So they feel some type of way that is out there, and it's making all of us look a certain way, and he's having an opinion about all, you know what I'm saying? So it just like your family, your family doesn't want you airing out the bad laundry. Same thing in your profession. If you was a CEO of a company, or if you work for a company, they don't want you airing out the bad laundry, right? That goes with any industry that you're in. The fact of the matter, when it comes down to it, when you were saying what you were saying, and sometimes when you say what you do say, as an officer, I can tell you've never done the actual job, right? Yeah. And when you say it, it's like, oh, bro, you've never done it. And it's like you're coming from a place where you've never done it. So you sound like a civilian, even though you are very close connected to the job and what you do. It just sounds like you're coming from a civilian standpoint, and that's where the frustration comes from, right? Because people say certain things a certain way that have never done it, and then it's like I think that's where the animosity comes from when it comes to a lot of comments and your standpoint. Now, what I will say is I will never argue with you or get mad at you from your standpoint, right? Because you haven't been there. Only time I would get angry with you if you had that standpoint and you have been there, because you know what it is to do that job, right? You know what it is to be in that situation. You know, I criticize law enforcement as well, right? There's no, I don't hold back from any criticism when it comes to law enforcement, but there are certain things that I do understand when it comes to law enforcement.
So when you say something like that, like my stance is, you don't have to be a police officer when the conversation is about the Constitution, right? Okay. And I know that it's a tough topic. You know, I have one mentor that I'm extremely close to. I don't think that just because of the way that he carries himself and his demeanor, I don't think that he would ever take offense. I think that his stance is always kind of like very middle of the road in terms of he's not going to try and argue with you, period. It's like, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
The other one, I think that if he were to hear me say certain things, I think that it would hurt him. I think that it would hurt his feelings, number one, because he knows this is the weird dichotomy of me, right? Because he knows how I view him. He knows how much I respect him, and he knows how much I respect law enforcement. So I think for him to hear me say certain things, he would be like, where is this even coming from? Because he's an older guy. He's, put 30 years behind the badge. And I think that from talking to him, being around him and listening to him, I think that truly his heart has always been in the right place. That doesn't mean that he hasn't ever done anything where he's gotten out of line. But right. I think that his view is that his heart has always been in the right place.
Well, I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of the officers take it personal.
Yeah.
I don't take anything that you say pertaining to me specifically. It's pertaining to my profession, right? That's why I don't take it personal, because I know you're not talking about me with some of the things that you say, right? So that's why it doesn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't bother me when certain people say certain things about law enforcement in a bad light, because I know for a fact that I don't operate like that. So, but there are people that do. So we have to keep those two. We have to be logical when we talk about those kind of things and know that there are bad cops, right? Yeah. And there's going to be people that have had bad experience with law enforcement. So we have to understand that those sentiments are going to be out there, not pertaining to you specifically, but if that's the only cop that they dealt with, they're going to think that police is like that. I mean, that's just a logical way of thinking.
Yeah, and I think that I have to also remember that, in order to have any sort of constructive dialogue about anything that's sensitive, you have to first have a relationship with that person. And I think that I see my relationship with people a lot further down the road than it is at the time. You know what I mean? Gotcha, so like if I'm having a conversation with somebody on YouTube every 6 weeks, or we're just commenting back and forth on a post, you know, that's not a real relationship. It kind of is in a way, but it's not like, you know, knowing somebody and having a deep understanding to where you can say something that can be a little bit dicey or a little bit spicy. And they're like, no, like, I'm not taking that personal. You're coming from somewhere, like, tell me more. If you don't have that relationship and you come off that way, somebody's like, hey, who the hell do you think you are? You know what I mean? It's a completely different conversation. So I am trying to be more understanding of that and more respectful of that, because I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to shut people down. And I've tried really hard with this platform to open up these lines of dialogue, because I do think that I have a gift of doing that.
Well, you're not. So that's the thing about it. You're with this climate and day and age that we're in, you're not going to be able to not, you know, upset people. Yeah. Right. It's going to come regardless, especially when it comes to cops.
Yeah.
Like some of the cops are some of the most feminine, raised. I mean, like they act like little girls sometimes when they talk about our profession.
Yeah.
You know, we try to be so much like the military, but the military don't give two. I don't know if you can cuss on here, but they don't give two F's about what you say about the military. They're going to handle business, right? Yeah, and I think that's where this profession, same as security, right? I think these kind of professions have to have that kind of outlook. Regardless of what you say, we still have to handle business. Yeah, we might have some people that might do some things wrong, and we'll try to fix that. But we're still having to handle business, regardless of the fact. These the First Amendment auditors and things of that sort, what people don't understand is when it comes to that, regardless of if they're doing things within the law or not, we have a job to do. And if there's a call that comes out on them, we're going to approach them. And just the matter of fact that they have that attitude is what makes that interaction the way it goes, right? A lot of cops have that high man on the totem pole. You can't tell me what's wrong, what's right, or what's wrong, right? So I think that's where that washes out, and it comes to a good cop looking as if they're a bad cop because they're just so frustrated with what's going on in that whole interaction, right? So, and misinformation, a lot of misinformation when it comes to cops.